When it comes to the internet computer, what do I think about Dfinity's objective? Nothing I say is financial advice, and this is just my personal thoughts and experiences, and I'm not telling it into anything. However, if I take a look at the World Computer Day event, in which they're planning to do in January in Switzerland of next year, of course, in 2026. Well, of course, depending on when you watch this video, right? But I'm saying currently next year in 2026, Dfinity, again, they're planning to do this event. But what do I think about that? And what do I think about their objective when it comes to it specifically? Well, I think if anything, it kind of sets the tone that the internet computer moving forward really has this aspect of AI. Because we have to consider the kind of purpose of this event, allegedly, right? At least from what I can see, is to explore the future of AI and technology. And I think this right here sets, again, a nice tone for, I think, the internet computer in terms of its focus on AI. It doesn't mean it could do anything, but I'm saying it at least sets the vibe of that. And the reason why is because some other projects out there that I see, they say they're focused on AI. They say that they're focused on, trying to do this when it comes to AI, trying to do that. But how and what are they doing in order to try to achieve something like that? I don't know in a lot of cases because they just say they are, they make a post, but what are they really doing? As far as I'm concerned, sometimes it just feels like the same project, but then they just made a post. That's kind of it. But when it comes to Dfinity, I take a look at what they've done so far with Caffeine AI, right? Self-writing apps platform. Granted, the launch of it wasn't necessarily the best timing, a lot of people would argue, just because ICP was just going downwards at that point in terms of the charts. Totally aware of that. But sometimes that's out of the control of a project, right? Sometimes a project just can't control that. If, let's say, that was able to hypothetically be controlled, would we see so many projects out there reaching new all-time lows, even surpassing levels in which we haven't seen ever since like 2020 or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, the thing is, a lot of projects out there, they can't really do anything about whether or not there is an altcoin season or not. You know what I mean? So sometimes the timing of it can't necessarily just be the best of all time, because sometimes this type of stuff can't really be accounted for. Because sometimes this type of stuff, like the timing just is really hard to make it like ideal. So this is why I think that, sure, Caffeine AI arguably wasn't the best timing, but at least in terms of developing the fundamentals, I don't see why it's bad timing, because when is it like not a good time to kind of improve fundamentally? You know what I mean? A lot of projects that I see out there, if they could just keep improving anyways fundamentally, despite not having the best sentiment when it comes to altcoins, a lot of them still would rather do that anyways, right? But then the thing is, some other projects out there, they just can't really do that, because some other projects out there, I feel like arguably the team doesn't really want to put the effort that I see, right? In some cases. And also on top of that, it feels like it's just a little bit difficult to kind of improve in some cases fundamentally. But I take a look at what Dfinity did, again, when it comes to Caffeine AI, despite not necessarily being the ideal, I guess, timing in some cases, some people would say. But at least they're setting the tone for the project in terms of being focused on AI when it comes to their own computer. So yes, having an event in and of itself, sometimes people will like to tell me that when it comes to the World Computer Day event, who's really going to care about it? But I have to consider sometimes the objective and the intent of it, right? If it's just to have fun and kind of, showcase that they're at least doing something, then, that's a little bit of a different case. But if the intent is to kind of further emphasize their focus on AI, if it's to kind of maybe foster new ideas or collaborations or partnerships, then that's where I don't think it is just purely for fun, right? I think if anything, it's actually an objective that makes sense to me. So when I take a look at ICP, sure, back in October, it did achieve a new all-time low, and that was like $1.98, right? But the thing is, even at that point, and even compared to right now, seeing ICP at slightly below $3, I sometimes like to ask myself, even though not too long ago I saw ICP at above $18, is the fundamentals better currently and also back in October, or when it was actually at above $18. Because actually, back around $18, where was the talks about caffeine AI? You know what I mean? Also, on top of that, were they having this emphasis when it comes to AI, at least from what I can see as of right now, in terms of the level, in terms of the emphasis when it comes to that? Arguably, I would say that when it comes to the narrative, when it comes to the computer, in terms of AI, I think it's actually much more dynamic when compared to back then. But the thing is, back then it was above $18, but right now it's around $3. But is that necessarily such a big complaint for me either? Because if, let's say, in a totally different example, right? I walked inside a store for whatever reason, and I saw that there's a skateboard, right? And let's say it's like at a level 10 for whatever reason in a make-believe scenario. And let's say I walked inside the store like a couple months later, and it's like at a level 7 in terms of the hypothetical amount. But then now the store is adding an extra set of wheels, and also on top of that, it's like having extra features, which, it could be whatever, right? But let's say there's extra features, there's an extra set of wheels, but then the level's actually lower than before, even though there's more features, arguably. That's not going to be a scenario where I'm just going to be randomly complaining, because I don't think I would in that instance, which of course is a totally different example when it comes to this, but that's just, again, a different example in my reaction to that. But that's just kind of my mindset sometimes. So overall, when it comes to the computer, I mean, as we're heading into 2026, it hasn't really done much, I guess, as of late, but I'll wait and see what happens in 2026, but that's all I can do. And that's all I will do, actually, hypothetically, as of right now. But in the meantime, I just wanted to talk about the intent of kind of their objective, I guess, when it comes to the event in which they're planning to do in January of 2026 in Switzerland. Because a lot of my friends out there seem to think that it's kind of like a pointless event, but I don't have that mindset. And yeah, I guess that's the way I feel about it as of right now, but I'll have to wait and see what happens. However, I want to say thank you for watching, though. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you all have a very nice day, and hopefully I'll be making more updates when it comes to the computer moving forward. Happy holidays.